"Is this seat taken?" asked a pretty brunette, sitting down on the sofa next to me. "No," I answered, and took a sip of wine. "Kevin and Jen always throw great parties, don't they?" she asked. "Maybe. This is the first time I went to such a party. They just moved last year and I rarely leave the house. Kevin and Jen were my neighbors and they were having a Christmas party. They loved to entertain and had a party for every holiday, not counting the monthly barbecues." "You're probably a neighbor, right?" she asked. "I thought I saw you raking leaves when I was at their Halloween party." "Yes, it was me." She giggled. "Do you have a name or do I need to guess?" I sighed. "Listen, I love my wife. Sorry. I saw you sitting alone and you were cute, so well, whatever. Where is she?" "She's wandering around here somewhere. She is never far from me." "Okay. I'll leave so she has room when she comes. My name is Shay and I work with Jen. I think we'll see each other again." I smiled and nodded. She got up and walked away to find another target to hit. Shay was a beautiful girl. It wouldn't take her long to find someone she liked. 20 years before that party, I met my wife, Gianna Rain, in a coffee shop in Venice. She stood out in the crowd for various reasons. It could be her stunning beauty, her 6 feet tall, or the fact that she walked into the coffee shop as if she owned it. The line parted for her as she approached the counter, and that wasn't even an exaggeration. She was wearing jeans and an Ohio State University sweatshirt and had her long Teachian hair pulled back into a ponytail. I would bet she had makeup on, but that was just the natural beauty of her skin. I was standing to her left, waiting for my espresso, when the employee called out to her, "Shiana?" She smiled at me and stepped forward to get her iced coffee. "You must be really special," I grumbled. I only waited a few minutes, but I was still annoyed that she got hers first. "Sorry?" she asked in surprise. "I mean, the whole line let you through, and then you got yours before I got mine. You must be special," she laughed. "You don't know who I am. It's my turn to laugh." And should. All I knew was that she was American. "It's too good to be true," she chuckled. "Are you busy now?" "No, except to drink espresso and explore the Doge's palace. Let's go sit at the entrance. Today is a beautiful day, and I need to hear about what rock you live under." The employee handed me an espresso, and we went to find a table outside. "So what's your name, handsome?" she asked. "Joe," she giggled. "How boring. Let me guess, Joe." "Clark." I took a sip of my drink and shook my head. "Joe Bose." "Oh my God," she laughed. "You might as well be Joe Blow." "Yes, don't think that I haven't been called that all my life." She raised an eyebrow. "What?" I asked. "If we got married, my last name would be Rainbows." She started laughing again. She had a pleasant laugh, and I wanted to hear it longer. Admittedly, I rolled my eyes at her using a double last name. "Your name is Gianna Rain?" She nodded. "Do you recognize this name?" "No, no offense. No hard feelings," she smiled. "What do you do so that I know who you are?" She took a magazine out of her bag and handed it to me. "Vogue?" I asked, looking at the cover. I laughed when I realized it was her on the cover, wearing a tight dress with a front slit down to her navel, showing off her ample breasts without a bra. Returning the magazine, I said, "I don't really follow fashion." She shook her head. "What are you following?" "Mainly for football." "You're an athlete?" It's my turn to laugh. "You don't keep track of the college on your sweatshirt, do you?" She shrugged. "I played football for them. Then I played 1 year in the NFL until I broke my hip. Now I work on television as an analyst. Nothing special. It's just their new football show. I also make money from matches." She grinned, looking me over. I was wearing a tight black t-shirt and linen pants. I think I got her approval because she subtly licked her lips. "Sounds funny," she said, and took her sunglasses off her head, lowering them over her eyes. At that moment, a group of American tourists passed by our table. "Actually, it's a lot of reading about football and watching football matches. It's not so bad. Look, Joe, I don't have much time to waste. You intrigue me and you're so damn cute." Would you like to skip the museum and go back to my room for dinner? I chuckled. I'll tell you what. If you can tell me the name of the Ohio State mascot, I'll come with you to your room. I sipped my espresso and smiled. She looked at me with a grin, then one of the American tourists shouted, "Go ahead, Buckeyes," and she smiled. "Hey, buddy, what is the name of the mascot?" He said, "Brutus Buckeye," and she repeated it for me. "You didn't say that I should know this. I just needed to tell you." "Okay, I'll let you win on this formality. I'm sure I won't suffer much." She laughed. "Oh, honey, you are priceless." It was obvious that she wasn't used to guys falling around her. I think that's what attracted her to me in the first place, as if the fact that I didn't know her was a point in my favor or something. "Are you enjoying the party, Joe?" I looked up from my phone and saw Jen standing in front of me. "Yes, I was just checking the game scores. Work, you know." Yes," she frowned. "Would you like some supplements or something to eat?" "No, thanks. I'm fine. I can't help myself when I need it. You don't need to worry about me." I gave her a bright smile, which she reciprocated, and moved on to the other guests. I was checking the account because I was still gambling and had a few thousand on some of the college games that were happening that evening. The next morning, I was supposed to join the team in New Jersey and get to work on my real job. Over the past 20 years, fantasy football took off, and the little television show we started became a prime-time slot on a major network. Our ratings were higher than the evening news. Crazy times. I looked around the room and saw couples talking to each other and singles trying to find a mate. Gianna and I were invited to spend some carnal time with some of our wilder neighbors. Who could blame them? Gianna was just as sexy at 40 as she was at 25, and I was still in shape and still had all my hair. I was wondering which of these couples would unite that evening. Gianna and I never accepted such invitations. Then I saw Shay again, walking towards me. I sighed as she looked at me with grim determination. Gianna opened the door to her 5-star hotel suite and invited me inside. I laughed when I saw the state of her room. "You're a slob," I muttered. "Well, it doesn't matter. Yes, that's probably true. Do you have crumbs in your bed, too? We probably should have gone to my clean room." "Shut up," she said and pushed me against the wall. The kiss she placed on my lips was the most passionate I had ever felt. She was only a few inches shorter than me, and I wasn't used to it. It was an interesting experience to kiss someone so tall. While her tongue danced with mine, I lifted her sweatshirt and she didn't break the kiss until it was at her neck. I threw her aside and cupped her braless breasts in my hands. "Your breasts are perfect," I said, and then pounced on her hard nipples. A moment later she said, "Joe, God!" My hand grabbed her leg and lifted it towards my thigh. I pressed our pelvises against each other, and after a moment she pressed her body into mine. She moaned, and then her body began to tremble. As I lowered her leg, I smiled at the look of bliss on her face as she tried to find a bed to sit on. I took off my shirt, then my pants and boxers. "Come on, introduce yourself," I grinned. She kissed him as if he were poisonous. "You can—" She pulled away and growled. "I do not do this." "What? Are you not pleasing your partner?" She shook her head. "I know it's hypocritical and all that. I've just never done it." Stepping back, I saw a bottle of water on the dresser. I took a big sip, offered it to her, she took it, and drank it too. "So you don't like doing this? Or have you never tried it and don't know if you'll like it?" "I've never tried." Laughing, I took her hand to make her stand up. He undid the buttons on her jeans and pulled them down to the floor. "It's clear. You were always the hot girl who made guys do whatever you wanted. They were so happy to be with you that they didn't care about getting a little pleasure for themselves." "I am not like that." I laughed again. "Well, I'm not interested in a selfish lover. It is important to me that you want to please me just as much as I want to please you." She looked at me as if I was mentally retarded. Shaking my head, I pulled on my clothes. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm going to leave. I still want to see the city before I leave." "Are you refusing to have sex with me? Are you kidding?" I shook my head. "Exactly. It's because of this attitude. It's my fault. I knew what you were like the moment you looked at me. How dare I not know who you are? I took a chance thinking that you would be someone I would like to get to know better, but my first impression turned out to be correct. See you, Gianna." She was stunned and speechless. Frankly, I was too rough with her, and I should have just taken my chance. If I was the kind of guy who brags about his conquests, I wouldn't hesitate to do what she wanted. But I did enough of that in college that I grew out of it. As I walked out of the lobby, bright sunlight hit me, and I started laughing hysterically at myself. I was the biggest idiot on the planet for turning her down. Shay sat down in the empty seat next to me. "You blew me off, asshole. Is your wife wandering around somewhere? This is cute." I cut her off. "Listen, Shay, I know what you're going to say. I'm sure you're a wonderful girl, and you're stunningly beautiful. But I promise to be faithful to my wife even if she's not here, and I'm going to do that." She looked at me confused and said, "But everything is just like that. I stood in front of all our family and friends and promised that I would be faithful and not love another. I keep my promises. I don't understand why, Joe. I love my wife, Shay. It is so simple." I got up and went to fill my glass with wine. As I was queuing for a quick lunch, I realized I had lost my wallet. "Damn!" I groaned as I realized he must be lying on the floor in Gianna's room. I walked a few blocks to the hotel with my tail between my legs. She probably found it, and was now burning asshole into the poor leather wallet. The elevator ride to her floor felt like an hour instead of the few seconds it actually was. I took a deep breath as the doors opened and she appeared in front of me. "Have you changed your mind?" she shouted. "I'm sorry, but you never—" "In your room, my wallet fell out of my pocket. I hope to return it if you don't mind." She moaned. "Okay, just quickly. I wanted to ask if she was going to find someone else to have sex with, but I decided it was better not to. I still needed my wallet." She opened her door, let me in, and closed it behind her. "I'm not what you think. You had no right to treat me like that." I took my wallet and sat down. "Gianna, when was the last time you spent time kissing his neck, earlobes, chest, stomach, anywhere other than his lips?" She stared at me, folding her arms over her chest. "I'm not that bad." I waved her off. "Bad is a relative concept. 99% of the guys on this planet would be more than happy with that. I'm not one of them. I need a partner with commitment. I want you to care about how well I feel, just as I care about how well you feel. Sorry, that's just who I am now. I wasn't always like this, but after a while I realized that I have the right to be demanding." She sat down on the bed and lost all her posture and composure. "I've never been rejected before. I don't know how to deal with this." I felt funny. "You don't have to deal with this. I'll be out of your life soon, and the next guy you bring here will be happy to have sex with you. What if I told you that I would like to try to please you?" I shrugged. "That's not the point. We can have mind-blowing sex. You just have to be completely involved in my and your pleasure. Sex should be a two-way street." She stood up and took a bottle of Moet champagne from the mini-fridge. After pouring 2 glasses, she handed one to me, then drank hers and filled it again. "You're the most interesting man I've ever met, Joe. I don't know how to deal with this. Part of me wants to throw you out the door, and part of me wants you to give me another chance. Even if it's not for sex, I really want to get to know you better, and I've never wanted this before. I'll tell you what. If you promise not to be the model Gianna Reigns and just be Gianna in an Ohio State sweatshirt, I'll take you to lunch." "I can do it. What's up, Joe?" Kevin asked, pouring a glass of red wine. "Fine. Great party." I pushed my glass towards him, and he filled it 3/4 full. "I see Shay pays a lot of attention to you. She asked us to share information." "Yes, that's what I understood. I told her I wasn't interested. I still love my wife. I understand that this is wrong, but that's how I am." He shook his head. "It's all very confusing, but this is your life. As children, They are wonderful. Now that they are both living in a dorm, I realize that being an empty nester isn't that hard. Well, I can tell you it's not easy, but at some point, we have to let them fly on their own, brother. I nodded and thanked him for the drink. After a surprisingly enjoyable dinner, Gianna and I returned to her room. Instead of kissing me like before, she pushed me against the wall and unbuttoned my pants. She was completely different. She tried and wanted to show me with every gesture, every movement, touch, that she was more than involved in the process. 6 months later, we got married. Shay stood up as I entered the living room. I shook my head when she came up to me and said, "I'm not giving up on you, Joe. You deserve to have some fun. Hell, I can make you forget your wife even existed." I laughed. "Shay, I told you, I love my wife. No matter what you do, you will never make me forget her." I looked her up and down and saw the tops of her stockings on her hips, where her short skirt had ridden up. "But I'm sure it would be fun to try." She shook her head. "Joe, I hope I find that kind of love someday." After Gianna and I got married, we had our first child, and she took a break from modeling. During this break, our second child was born. We had enough money between what she already earned from modeling and what I earned online along with gambling. Our kids grew up in a loving home where two parents were home most of the time. I was in love, but I never realized that I had such a deep love for Gianna until one day it hit me in the face. The kids were in kindergarten and first grade, and she suddenly told me that she had an offer to go on a runway tour. The money was crazy. "Are you going to do this?" I asked. I had a bad feeling about what would happen if she went on the road again. "That's a lot of money, Joe." I nodded. "But do we need them?" "No, not now. But what if television disappears? What will we do then?" I sighed. It was a compelling argument. The television audience was fickle and could find itself on the street at any moment. "I think you already said yes?" She had the decency to look away. "What about us, Gianna? I know what you were like before. Power, skimpy outfits, men. I will never cheat on you if that's what you're worried about." "What about the children? How long will you be gone?" "You will be here. You won't be back at work until August, and I won't be back until football season starts. I'm worried about what will happen to us if you do this. I do not want to lose you." She hugged me. "On our wedding day, I promise to love you and be faithful to you always. I will keep this promise. I hoped she was strong enough to handle it. She had to leave for 5 months, but it only took me 2 months to think my marriage was in danger. I was standing at the checkout line at the grocery store and saw gossip magazines sitting next to the candy bars and gum. On the cover of one of the magazines, there was my wife topless on a balcony in France. They blurred out the interesting parts, but what they didn't blur out was the man sitting on the lounge chair next to her. Before my kids saw it, I grabbed one of the magazines and opened the one behind it. I hurried through the register, and the kids were crying because I didn't stop to buy gumballs or stickers from the machines in the lobby. After putting the kids in the back seat, I turned on the video for them and started the car. I looked at my watch and saw that it was already early evening in London, where she was at that time, so I called her. "Hey, baby," she said, picking up the phone. "Don't you want to say something to me?" I grumbled. "Is this what I'm receiving from you now?" She whined. "Who is this fucking guy with you on the balcony?" "What a balcony? What are you—" "Holy crap, what magazine published them? They had to be ransomed." "Is this your fucking answer to me?" "No, everything is not what it looked like." "No, I'm not cheating on you. No, it was a fake. Your answer is that they should have been bought out." I ended the call and threw the phone into the parking lot in disgust. Then I groaned because it was a brand new iPhone, the first generation of which had just come out. I walked up to the broken phone and turned my head away in annoyance. Then I climbed into my truck and said, "Okay, children, who wants to go to Best Buy?" They were having fun. I was worried. Shay asked, "Joe, with all these stories about her and other men, how can you still love her so much?" Sipping wine, I said, "When I met her, she was an arrogant supermodel. She earned millions by walking on catwalks and putting her photos on magazine covers. Did you know that after the first fashion show I accompanied her to, she took me to the after-show party? It only took 20 minutes for the most terrible debauchery to begin. I left the apartment and left her running after me. Did she want you to participate? Shai asked. She said she wanted me to see what her life was like. Good and bad sides. She said that she does not engage in debauchery but loves to have sex, and she is not lonely when she is away from home. She said that's why she hasn't dated anyone seriously. I thought she was trying to scare me off, but it was a test to see what I was willing to put up with. Why did you stay with her? I laughed. You know, I've been asking myself this question for almost 15 years. The short answer is, she gave it up. She wanted to have children and wanted to do it right away. When she was on top of the world, she was ready to just quit, she asked. Yes. She never told me, but something happened that made her dislike the business. I suspected that someone was harassing her. We had a whirlwind romance and quickly got married. Then we had children. But she has obviously returned to modeling, she added, with revenge. The day after I saw the topless photos of her on the balcony, I sat in my office and watched my kids play with their Star Wars action figures. I was amazed at their imagination because they had a whole legion of figurines placed throughout the room. I was brought out of my reverie by the slam of the front door and the sound of hard soles. I didn't have time to get to the gun safe, so I rushed to the door and slammed it shut. I almost made the children climb out the window and run to the neighbors, but Gianna began calling me through the door. I sighed. Looks like Mom is home, guys. They ran to the door and attacked their mother with kisses and hugs. I made my way around them as she hugged them, and they forced her to look at their battlefield with battle figurines. She looked at me, about to speak, but I shook my head. Walking into the kitchen, I opened a bottle of water. I wasn't ready for confrontation, but she was. She burst into the kitchen and opened fire. I didn't cheat on you. Of course, every faithful wife goes topless on a private balcony with a man who is not her husband. Did you even read who it was? Some kind of Renee. Yes, Renee Peralta, fashion designer. Figure. Damn it, Joe. Listen to me. Google it right now. I'll wait. I sighed. I cannot. I broke my phone, and the new one hasn't arrived yet. How did you manage to break your phone? Glass meets cement and asphalt. The glass was lost. When did you do this? We were just talking yesterday. Oh, Joe. She took out her phone, typed something, then handed it to me. Read. I read the text on the screen and threw the phone on the table. So what? Just because he's married to a man named Jean-Pierre doesn't mean he doesn't cheat too. She knelt down and took my hands in hers. Darling, I never break my promises, and I promise to always be faithful to you. I have not, and will not have any sexual contact with any other person. Well, what am I supposed to think when I see this garbage in the damn grocery store? She sat on my lap. I know, baby. That's why we tried to buy them off. She kissed my forehead, then my nose, then pressed her mouth onto mine until she had to catch her breath. Honey, since I'm home, could we go to the bedroom for a few minutes? I couldn't agree more. Kevin handed Shay a fresh drink and winked at me before leaving. So everything was fine until the kids went to middle school. She decided that she would no longer participate in fashion shows, but still did photo shoots. I later learned that they were no better than the after-show parties. Shay shook her head. What happened then? Someone decided that she should act in a movie. About. I remember this. I liked this movie. Then she blushed. I chuckled. Shay said, it was quite a sexy thriller. Yes, yes. She thought she was going to be the next Sharon Stone. Gianna was in Vancouver for 3 weeks filming her film. I was in Oregon broadcasting a college football game day, so I decided to surprise her and stop by for dinner. The flight took a little over an hour. I got to her hotel, and she walked into the lobby arm in arm with her co-star. Of course, he turned out to be one of the most handsome men in Hollywood. They didn't notice me when they entered the elevator together. I took the next elevator, stood in front of her number, and called her cell phone. Hi, darling. As children? She answered. Wonderful. I have a surprise for you. Open the door to your room. Is it true? She perked up. Fine. The door is open. No, it's not open. Open your door. Joe, I'm standing in the corridor. What's happening? Gianna, I'm standing in front of your room. What? Where are you? I cannot see you. I groaned. Gianna, I'm standing in front of room 12 on 14 right now. Where the hell are you? She laughed. I changed the number. Now I'm on the 10th floor in room 1001. Hurry up, baby. I can't wait to see you. I ended the call and went down the stairs. When I opened the door to the 10th floor, she was standing in the corridor. Joe! She shouted and ran towards me along the corridor. She was wearing the same outfit she had worn in the hall, and nothing looked disheveled. Where is the lover? I asked, entering her room. What? Who? Your co-star in the film, The Sexiest Man Alive. I saw you on his arm in the hall. Oh, Joe, you don't seriously want to accuse me of having an affair again, do you? I saw what I saw. She took a deep breath and threw off her dress in one motion. Examine my body. Don't play this game. I know you didn't have enough time to do anything other than kick him out of your room when I told you I was here. Baby, think about what you're saying. I opened the door just when you said you were standing behind it. I sat down on the bed and took a deep breath. Joe, honey, I have not done and will never do this. I know, I'm just so excited. And when I saw you interacting so well with him, I just let my imagination run wild. Darling, I'm standing here naked in front of you. Does this give you any ideas? It is true, and I took advantage of the situation. I took a sip of wine, and Shay felt uneasy. What's on your mind? I asked. Some people say their sex scene involved, actual penetration. Yes, I heard all this too. I never believed it because I knew what her face looked like when we made love. I don't believe they had sex on or off camera. She shook her head. Didn't anyone ever tell you that love is blind? I laughed. Love is not blind, Shay. Love puts everything in its place. Sometimes love forces us to make choices that would cause bile in weaker people. Children? No, I would never stay with the liar Gianna just for the sake of the children. It would be unfair to them. They will know that everything is wrong, and this may have a negative impact on them. There was no evidence that she cheated on me, so I lived in the obscurity of rumors and gossip. After the film failed, Gianna gave up acting. She was already over 30, and her modeling career was also fading. When the children were 16 and 17, Gianna was already over 40 and felt forgotten. The children needed her less and less every day. My career took off even further on the wave of daily fantasy football. Little did I know, it would cause a ratings boom for my TV shows, which kept me away from home more than ever. Then, we faced the biggest challenge in our marriage to date. One morning, Gianna's phone rang and she launched into a tirade of some of the worst things I've ever heard her say. She slammed the door to my office, and the screaming continued for another 10 minutes. Then my phone rang. Then began my tirade of the worst words I've ever used. I ended the call and started using my Google mobile search engine to find out if what I was told was true. Article after article talked about how my wife had a video leak. I clicked on one of them, where there was a link to a video, and she ran into the room. It is not true. I swear to God, it is not true. Let's take a look, okay? I pressed play and watched as the grainy green video played on my screen. She hurried around my chair to look over my shoulder and shouted, "Who the hell is she?" You tell me that. Joe, it's not me. Don't know. I haven't seen your face yet. We watched for several minutes, but her face was still not visible in the video. Everything happened from behind the woman in the video. She grabbed my phone and stared at the paused image. She desperately tried to find anything that could prove that it wasn't her in the video. I stood up and grabbed my keys. Joe, wait. Do not go anywhere. It's not me. You don't recognize this room? Are you seriously going to tell me that you don't recognize the set of the only movie you've ever been in? And this scene was never in the film. What? She exclaimed and looked at the phone again. Damn it, Joe. It's not me. This must be my replacement. This must be that Jenny girl. Wait. Do not go anywhere. I need to make some calls. It looks like you from behind, I hissed. Just wait. She handed me my phone and headed back to the office. I heard her yelling at someone on the phone, and finally she yelled, "Find her, and find her quickly." I watched the video again. I couldn't make out the guy's face and tried to find something to prove that this was not my wife. I couldn't find anything, so I called my agent. "Steve," I grumbled, "Gianna says it's her double from the movie. I have no idea what to believe right now, but we need to find out who this guy is and also the girl. I know everyone is saying it's Gianna and the hunk, but there must be some way to verify this." He said he would look into it immediately and keep me posted. All I knew was that I wanted to kill this handsome actor. Gianna left the office with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Joe, you have to believe me. I don't know what to believe." She then complained of a headache and went to bed. "Do you feel the same way about her today as you did when you first fell in love with her?" Shay asked. "Differently. I definitely still love her. It will never go away. Did the problems we had eventually destroy our love? I don't think so. It's like holding a ball of clay in your hands. You can give it all sorts of different shapes, but there's only so much clay left, you know? No, I can't say that I understand. I don't think I've ever loved anyone so much. But I would really like to feel it. You look like a wonderful girl, Shay. Have you never been in love?" "Of course I was in love. I don't think I've ever loved anyone the way you love Gianna. I'm not sure I would have the strength to weather these storms. It seems to me that where there is smoke, there is fire. Sometimes it's true. In other cases, you have to rely on trust in your partner." She sipped her drink and weighed what I told her. She might think I'm just a weakling for all I know. It took 3 months to get Jenny to admit that it was her and not Gianna in the video. I wish I could say that those 3 months were good for us, but it turns out that Gianna had been having headaches and blurred vision for a long time. She thought she needed glasses and kept putting off buying them because she was worried about how she would look in them. But that wasn't the problem. She had an inoperable tumor. I walked through the door of her hospital room and she was sleeping. The doctor told me over the phone that the swelling was severe and she was getting worse. I took her hand and cried when I saw her. "I love you so much, Yana Rainbows." "Best name ever," she replied weakly. "Forgive me, baby. I didn't want to wake you up. I was just relaxing." She smiled and squeezed my hand. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Joe. This problem has made me forget a lot, but I will never forget the day we met. I tried not to break down, but I failed, and I sobbed, leaning on the bed, on her shoulder. "Don't leave me, baby," I begged. "I don't want to, my love, but my time is getting closer. I don't feel anything anymore." I was shaking with sobs. "I've always been faithful to you, baby," she whispered. "I know, my soul. I know." The machines rang, and a nurse burst into the room. Her hand stroked my back as I held my wife's limp body close to me. "Forever, my love," I whispered. "She's been gone for several years now." Shay shrugged. "Don't you think it's time to share the great love you are capable of with someone else? You're still young." I smiled. "Actually, I think about this often. My kids at school push me to move on. Kevin and Jen are trying to set me up at a party." She blushed again. Even my hot co-host fell for me. "You see, I know there are other options, Shay, and I know that I can fall in love again. I just promised eternity to my wife. Of course, you don't believe that these promises should have been kept if one of you died at 40? What if it suits me?" She stood up and handed me a card. "You're a great guy, Joe, and I mean what I said before. I'm not going to give up. You are worth the effort. In the meantime, you have my number. Call me anytime." 2 months after meeting Shy, I was sitting in the living room alone, as usual. I had just won 10,000 on a game and was in a pretty good mood for a change. As I poured myself a glass of wine, I remembered that it was the same wine that Shay drank at the party. I smiled, remembering our conversation, and walked over to the wedding portrait of Gianna and me. "Oh, baby, how I wish you were still here with me." A tear rolled down my cheek and I wanted to find my wallet. Smiling at her photo, I walked into my bedroom. I took my phone and dialed the number. Hello? Is this Shay? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.